Welcome to the No Horsing Around podcast, Sunday evening live stream. Guys, I just want to get on here, just talk about some great things that happened today in camp. I'm just so fired up. And if you can't tell, we're putting out content all the time just because there's so many storylines, so many things to be excited about. Got a question for you. Stephon Gilmore, Defensive Player of the Year. Yes, no, maybe so. Would love to know what you think about Stephon Gilmore and his potential. He had looked like what it would have been a pick six in a game. I believe it was George Bremer that tweeted it out. That's where I read that from. Also on here on the live stream, Matt B, man, one of our favorites inside the Horseshoe Podcast. I just got him on here. Just thought, hey man, I hadn't seen any content from him in a while. I thought, man, we got to hear your voice. We got to hear what's going on. We got to hear Matt B's perspective. So how you been, man?
I've been good, just potentially getting a new channel started, maybe two. Kind of been processing all of that, and just waiting on some more news because I don't do great when it comes to training camp coverage on like my own,
A little breaking news right there from Matt B, guys. Be
Yeah.
on the lookout for that as far as that goes. Well, Matt, as you saw in the lead, the headline today and the thing I got most excited about was Stephon Gilmore, right? I headlined this even, could he be a defensive player of the year? Obviously, a couple years ago he was. Is he a candidate? Is he a viable, if healthy? I'll leave that caveat because we all know how that matters. If healthy, is he a true lockdown elite cornerback in the NFL that could potentially turn into a defensive player of the year candidate in your mind?
I definitely think he's a, top tier corner if healthy, potential defensive player of the year. Maybe. It's gonna be tough. I think there's gonna be some other guys on the defensive line that are gonna be really good as well, and that might make it a little more difficult too, especially if Yannick has a similar season to what he has in the past or better. I think that could definitely be possible to force Buckner as well. It would be tough. I mean, you got guys like Aaron Donald out there that are obviously going to be in contention for Defensive Player of the Year, TJ Watt. So maybe Darius Leonard or Shaq Leonard, I should say.
Yeah.
I got to get used to that. But yeah, it's going to be tough, but I definitely think he could be in the running and maybe be a finalist.
Man, it looks like so far, just from the sentiment that I've seen in training camp, looks like the defense has gotten a little bit better the part of the offense so far.
Yeah.
Maybe to be expected. You've got some new faces in there, new system. You've got a real young wide receiver core. And those veterans on the other side seem to be really, really gelling. One thing that we've had a question, and we've even had a podcast about this, is kind of a, who's in, who's out type of deal. You got Rodgers and Faison in the middle of an absolute just head-to-head battle. But what I see Rodgers making plays every single game. Not as many flashy highlights from Faison, probably a better run stopper. And we know Gus Bradley really likes that and values that out of his DBs. But that being said, I think Rodgers wins this job, man. I do. I think when it's all said and done, I think he wins this job just because of his ability to go out and snag the football.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Rodgers is going to win the job. And that's kind of what I expected because of what he did last season. He took the steps that he needed to be a really good corner. Obviously, Kenny, he's going to be starting. Obviously, Stephon Gilmore is going to be starting. But I think as far as the other corner, it feels like Rodgers is probably going to win. But I do think Faison is going to be used quite a bit in this defense, especially with his ability to stop the run, as he said. But yeah, I agree. It's Rodgers' job, I think, right now.
Also, a really, really cool thing as Fredro hops in. He was on our last live stream. Love Fredro. Fredro, shout out to you, brother, for coming on. Thank you so much. I would agree with you on that, too. Gilmore was one of the greatest acquisitions this offseason.
Oh, yeah,
and I'm
sure.
so glad, Matt, that they got Gilmore for 2 years. Like, he's done so many of these one-year deals on these veterans. Having a guy locked down for the next 2 years where you don't have to worry about that, that side of the field is taken care of as far as that goes. Let's talk about Andrew Ogletree because he got some run with the ones today, and I'm really intrigued by this young possible candidate. 6th-round pick out of Youngstown State. Chris Ballard always seems to find somebody on day 3. Did he find somebody on day 3, Matt?
It looks like he might have. I mean, he's been really, really good. I think outside of Mo, he might have been the best tight end so far in training camp. I thought he was going to be the number 4 guy. That's kind of what I expected, heading into training camp and spring and all that. But he might actually be the number 2 tight end on this team because I thought it would have been Jelani, maybe Kylan Granson, but it seems like Ogletree is going to win that number 2 spot. And that's something I didn't really expect coming into, training camp or anything. I thought he was going to be our number 4 guy, but it
I,
looks like that's not going to happen.
you're right. Like I thought maybe potentially was he fighting for a roster spot? You know what I mean? Like
Right.
walking into it, and then all of a sudden, if you look at his body type, if you look at his sheer raw athletic ability, I mean, there's a lot to mold right there. And we all know Frank Reich loves playing 2 tight ends at the same time. Like in a dream world, if he had 2 capable tight ends of playing, most of the time he's going to have that set out there on the field because he just loves that tight end connection with the quarterback. And, a good way to become a quarterback's best friend is grabbing that one-handed pass in the back of the end zone, and hauling it down. Like, you make quarterbacks look good, they throw you the football. It's just that simple. Another guy I wanted to transition to was Parris Campbell. Knock on wood, fingers crossed, this guy can finally be healthy and put it all together, especially in a contract year. But so far, so good, Matt.
Yeah, it looks like it. I believe he's going to stay healthy for at least the majority of the season. That's just how I felt with Parris Campbell. It's just been bad luck. I think that bad luck goes away this year, especially when he has a quarterback like Matt Ryan. It seems like we've had bad luck with quarterbacks. I think that's going to end as well. But like I kind of expected, I expected Parris Campbell to be the number 2 receiver on this team. Even if we brought in another guy, that's kind of what I expect him to be because he has that game-breaking speed. He has the athleticism you need. He has the size. He's always, when healthy, been somebody you can rely on. He's able to catch pretty much anything thrown in his direction. So, I mean, I'm happy. It looks like he's continuing to take those steps, and I think we're going to see a really good Parris Campbell. I think he has that chip on his shoulder, and that's something I'm really happy that he has.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. And he's not lost his willingness to go out there and compete, get better. He's kept such a positive attitude when it would be so easy. Most players would have folded by this point, honestly. They'd have been like, you know what, I'm not dealing with this. This is just crazy. Before we go on, shout out to Herbside. Last year we did our Seattle Seahawks podcast. This is a Seattle Seahawks fan in a Colts live stream right now. That is unbelievable that the guy comes back and supports us. And we always held true to our word with him. We always said, hey, we want you on here, even if you're a fan of another team. We love to hear your insight around the league. Also, Loyalist, I think you were at practice today. Correct me if I'm wrong. I want to know from Loyalist here in the chat, who was the most impressive player today at training camp? So we can talk a little bit more about that as we go along on the live stream. Also, Fredro, again, man, thank you so much, brother, for stopping in. Another guy that I'm so excited about, and I hate to just keep hitting on these wide receivers, but Ashton Dulin, man, like what the freaking heck is going? I mean, this guy is like lightning in a bottle on the offensive side. We always talk about Kenny Moore being lightning in a bottle, but this guy, when there's a big play being made, a lot of times you look up and it was Ashton Dulin who made that big play in training camp.
Yeah, it seems like every single day he's making plays, and I think he's proving that he's going to earn a spot. I think he's going to earn whether it's receiver 4, I can't see him being receiver 5. I think receiver 4 at the lowest where he's going to be at. But it's just nice that we have another guy with great speed, really good athleticism. That seems like he's able to catch the football pretty well. It just helps, because you got Parris, you got now Dulin, you got Pierce with that speed. I mean, Matt Ryan's just going to love all his options.
Yeah. And Loyalist, like we talked about at the very beginning of the live stream, he's already talking about Gilly. He said that, Gilmore had an unbelievable practice. Seems like he's really settling in on this Gus Bradley defense now. I've heard his name mentioned multiple days in a row. And when you've got Stephon Gilmore, I was there on the live Saturday practice when we went down there on the field, and he had that little bang up with Mo Alley Cox, and everybody's breath just went like, oh, like what just happened? Two at once. Both got up. Luckily, they're still practicing. They haven't really missed any time. Domo Wiggly, man, what up? I'm so glad to see you here. I'm going to give you a shout out, Domo. Thanks for stopping by, brother.
I'm just happy that Gilmore is looking like what I think we all were expecting him to, because we're going to need him, because we're playing against some really good teams with some really good receivers this year. So it's going to be very important. Plus the AFC, especially when we get to the playoffs, you got teams like Buffalo and Kansas City. Maybe Miami sneaks into the playoffs. I mean, Tua's looking really good. I mean, all these teams have really good receivers. The Chargers, I mean, the list goes on and on. So having a guy like Stephon Gilmore out there doing his thing, hopefully at 100%.
Yeah.
It's very important because you can pair him up with pretty much any receiver, and he's going to be able to do his job.
And you know what else is so cool to me, Matt, is so many times teams go out here and sign these big name free agents, and then they never end up fulfilling what we all thought they would be, right? It's early. The man's not played one game for us, so let's just, with very cautious right here. But you just like the way that he's approaching his game, and he looks like he's still got quite a bit of tread on his tires. As Loyalist chimes in and says Grover and Zaire really locked down the running backs as well. Big Grove, that's a large man. I would think if he got his hands on you, you're probably going to go where he tells you you're going to go. You know what I mean? And Herbside chimes in with it's going to be a 12 sack season for Yannick. I can see it, brother. I mean, I think Yannick, obviously so engaged with the fan base. He even spoke to him out there in the stands before practice.
Yeah.
What an incredible way to just come into town and say, you know what, I'm going to hit the ground running. And I think that goes a long way for him having the potential, if he's healthy, he plays a good season, of being a long-term solution on that defensive end side as well, man.
Yeah, I think he definitely has the potential to get over 12 sacks because, I mean, who are you going to double team on this defensive line? Because if you double team, Yannick, you got DeForest Buckner, who's ready to go after the quarterback. You got Kwity Paye, you got Dio, you have Tyquan Lewis. You have all these guys that are very capable of getting to the quarterback. So, yeah, you could double team one of them. You're just given an opportunity for any of the others to get to the quarterback. So I definitely believe he can get 12 sacks. I think DeForest Buckner could be a double-digit sack guy. I think Kwity Paye could get close there. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm so happy that we now have good pass rush on this team. That's something we've been lacking, and I feel like that's what's been the missing piece for us going from a top 10 defense to a top 5 defense.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Steven chimes in, the co-host of No Horsing Around. He's here to support the live stream. Says he called 16 sacks for Yannick. I don't know if I'm ready to go there. I hope Steven's right. That means that would be awesome. I would lose my mind if that actually ends up coming to fruition, and I hope it does. Also, RJB, man, he says he's been waiting on his sleeper Ashton Dulin to make his move and be key in this offense. RJB might want to, late in the draft, you've only got 2 or 3 fantasy picks left. You might want to take a little flyer on Ashton Dulin. You never know what's going to happen. And then you got Bumblebee hopping in. How was Alec Pierce today? I didn't hear anything about him. I wasn't there. Loyalist, I know, who was in the chat earlier, was there. I think he had a little bit of a quiet day, but he's shown moments, right, Matt? Talk to me about Alec. What are your thoughts on him?
So he's shown moments of obviously being what I think Chris Ballard and everybody there expect him to be. He's been athletic, super fast, has no problem against the press. Today, it feels like he might have, like you said, he's been quiet. The offense in general seemed to have some issues, so it's not like it was just him. It seemed like everybody did. But look, he's not going to be amazing every single day in training camp. He is a rookie. He's going to have days where he maybe isn't as dominant, or maybe he's more quiet on some days. So, I mean, he's been quiet today, but a lot of days he's been quite good as far as what I've seen. I haven't been to training camp at all, but everything I've seen online and just seeing people talk about him, he's been as advertised.
Yeah, man, it's pretty cool. And guys, before we go on, I just want to invite every single one of you, if you haven't joined the No Horsing Around family, all you got to do is push that subscribe button. You get our latest, greatest. We're trying to provide you as much content as we possibly can. And also, if you haven't joined the Inside the Horseshoe podcast, go on over there, give my man a subscribe as well. He always gives you great in-season content, has a really, really good, clear perspective. And I've always respected what he does over there as well. To go back right into it, though, Pierce, he has that great stutter step off the line. Like obviously has that clear connection. But I think the most important thing for him, Matt, is he now has a quarterback who can throw and deliver those routes for him. Like if you would have asked Carson Wentz to do that for him, I'm not sure Carson Wentz hits him on a consistent basis. He has to have a guy who's a completely accurate timing type of a quarterback. And with Matt Ryan, dude, I mean, it's just what the doctor ordered for a rookie,
Yeah, and look, I've said this, I think, on one of the streams Derek did for Bring the Juice. If Alec Pierce had a quarterback that, actually looked at everybody and wasn't like inconsistent and just average, Alec Pierce is a top 15 pick in the draft. I mean, he has everything you need in a receiver. It's just there's been times where he's wide open, nobody near him, and you had, Desmond Ridder kind of looking around, not seeing him wide open. And there's been times where he would overthrow him. No hate on Ridder. Ridder's a solid quarterback. I think he's going to be a good backup in the league, but he's missed a lot of opportunities with Alec Pierce that I think would have made him definitely a first round pick, maybe a top 15 as well.
Yeah, no, Bumblebee chimes in and says, do you think the Heat could have caused some issues with the offense? Nah, Bumblebee, I think they got their ass whipped today. I think that's what happened. I think they were both hot out there, and I think the defense showed up from what I heard. Texting a few people that were down there, talking to a few people that were down there. The defense since training camp has had a real seriousness about them. Like there's just been a very like a lunch pail, blue collar approach to what they're doing. So whatever's going on over there on the Gus Bradley side of the field is really, really, really cool, man. And I'm excited to know about that. Fredro, the athleticism and speed of receivers this season should give Ryan plenty of options. No doubt about it at all, Fredro. We got tight ends as well. We got Mo Alley out there catching the ball in space. We got Jelani Woods, who's been a little bit behind, but now starting to kind of thrive a little bit. One guy that is struggling right now is Kylan Granson. I think he's struggling with drops. That was the knock on him coming out of college. And I think it's two parts. I think it's actually three parts. A, you got to learn how to block in the NFL if you want to stay on the field. B, you got to catch the football. And C, you got to hold on to the football when you do catch the football. And he struggled doing those things at times. So that hindered his, ability to get out there and get playing time. And now you see Ogletree and even Woods now kind of overstepping him a little bit. Man, it's going to be a war for that second and third slot, as far as tight ends goes this year. Thoughts on Kylan Granson?
Haven't heard too much about him. I know Matt Ryan was really targeting him today and during training camp, which, that's what I've seen online anyway. I don't know. It sounds like he's going to be that number 3, number 4 tight end, I guess, just depending on where Jelani and where Ogletree finish. Heard he's done some good things today, but I haven't really heard too much just, throughout the entire training camp.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. We're going to flip over to the defensive side. I'm going to type in defense. Who loves some defense? We got to show some love for the defense as well. Definitely. Nick Cross. Come on, man. I mean, dude's a rookie coming out there playing like he's been in the league. He kind of reminds me his trajectory a little bit of Blackman as a rookie. Like there wasn't a huge rookie curve with Blackman. Like he just played football. He had this injury. He came and like everybody's like, whoa, like we're going to ease him into things. We didn't ease him into anything. He just came right outside and started playing football for us. Nick Cross is kind of dealt with some injuries. Obviously, the retirement with Kari Willis kind of speeds up and accelerates the opportunity to get on the field. But when he has gotten on the field, all this guy does is make plays, man. I mean, he is a freak athlete. Yeah. I mean, when you talk about top rating and top testing at that position in this draft, if you're an analytic nerd, I mean, Nick Cross is as high up there as you can possibly get, brother.
Yeah, Nick Cross is definitely he's played a little better than I expected him to in training camp right away. I figured it was going to be Rodney McLeod that would win that starting job, but Nick Cross has done good enough to where I feel like he might win that spot. Man. Like he's been, like you said, he's made plays pretty much every day. He's been as advertised, maybe even better.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. And also, Nomadic Brian jumps in, man, and super long time listener. Love this guy to death. He's always commenting. He's always getting our chat going. Yeah. He's kind of the czar of our chat room, man. Every single time I can almost count on Brian coming and delivering and throwing something in there. Mm-hmm. Pretty cool to have all these people that we get a chance to talk to on a daily basis and get a good Colts training camp. He wants to know Defensive Player of the Year for training camp. Defensive Player of the Year for training camp. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to know what Nomadic Brian thinks about the trajectory of our defense in its totality, because I think we've got some solid players. Kwity Pace is another guy who seemed to have a pretty good day at camp today. Been a little quiet, but I've always loved Kwity Paye. I always said if Kwity Paye was ever in a position where he could be a true number 2, he would be a much better pass rusher, because he obviously has the ability to stop the run, and he has the ability to get to the quarterback. If it's not, the pressure's not all on him, this guy can really, really take that jump from year 1 to year 2.
Yeah, I agree. And it looked like as last season was ending, he was starting to take that step that he needed to. And it looked like by the season's end, he could be a really good edge rusher for this team. And I think just adding Yannick on this team, it's just going to make it even easier for him to get to the quarterback. It's going to help him a lot. Obviously, he's working with Robert Mathis. I believe Yannick is going to work with him a little bit too this offseason.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm expecting some pretty big things from Kwity. Like, I'm really high on him. And also Dio. I'm expecting some good things from Dio.
Over under 8.5 sacks for Kwity Paye this year. Putting you on the spot, Matt B. Over or under? I go under, because I think he hits 8. I'll be honest with you. I think he hits 8. That's what he does get. But
I'm going over.
He's going over.
I'm going over on all of them.
My man went over. He said, I'm going to hit that 9 right there. You heard it here first. If you lose your money, blame it to Matt B. But he's going for the over. 9. Cool. Yeah, I'm in on that 100%. And I'm just closing my eyes as we're having this conversation. I'm thinking 3rd and long. So we've got Kwity over here. We've got Yannick over here. We've got DeForest Buckner over here. Insert Dio. That's a pretty damn good front 4 right there. You know what I mean? If you're hunting the quarterback and you know that they're obviously in a throwing, a scenario where they have to throw the football, that's a lot of pass rush. That's a lot of length. That's a lot of speed and a lot of power coming towards the quarterback. So it should be a fun guy I call them the big uglies. It should be really, really fun for the big uglies. Let's just see Fredro's hopping in here talking. The humidity in Indiana was atrocious today. No doubt about it, brother. Every single day it's like that. When it's hot out here, it's hot out here. So that's just the way it is. Hopping on over back to the offensive side. Want to talk a little bit before we get off the live stream about Matt Ryan and what he can mean to this team. I've said it a million times on this podcast, so if you've heard it already, I know you're probably tired of hearing it, but the trajectory of the modern NFL, build a really good team, solid foundation with playmakers, go out and get your veteran quarterback, a la Tampa Bay, a la Rams, insert the Indianapolis Colts. We did the same thing. Go out and sign a few, heavy hitters. You trade for Yannick. You go out and get Stephon Gilmore. That's the recipe, man. You know what I mean? Like that. That's the recipe to have a big move. And if you can stay healthy, I think A, we can win the AFC South. B, we can make a push in this playoffs, and like a serious one, not just getting in.
Here, I'm getting a phone call real quick. Hold on.
Oh my gosh, Matt be getting a phone call on the live stream right now. I think he's waiting on food, guys, man. You got to give him a hard time when he comes back in, though. Just let him know, hey, what's up with the phone calls on the live cast? Also, Loyalist says don't sleep on Eric Johnson. He has a nasty spin move on the interior. Hey, that's a good call, man. I wasn't even going to talk about him tonight. I'm glad. Hey, Loyalist, dude. If you guys didn't listen to, we did the prediction of the season last year. Loyalist was on that podcast. We just dropped it yesterday evening. Go out there and check that podcast out with Loyalist. So thankful for him coming on the show as well. Guys, give Matt B a real hard time right now. He had to hop off. Dinner. He had to hop off and take that. Hey, dinner is very important, though, guys.
Yeah, I got to eat.
This man's got to eat. If he wants to talk about Colts football, we got to eat. Yes. Let's see. Bumblebee says, I feel like we did everything right except for getting T.Y. back. I would say this. I would say don't count him out yet. That's all I can say. I feel like the T.Y. has a place on this football team. Wouldn't count him out yet.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a chance T.Y. could be on this team. I think there's really 2 guys they're looking at right now if they're going to add another receiver. It seems like it's T.Y. and it's Odell. If what Rashad says ends up happening, seems like OBJ could be on the team, but I still think there's a good chance T.Y. is going to come back. I think really it comes down to money. I think that's something that it's going to come down to. I think T.Y. might want a little more than what Chris Ballard is willing to give. Honestly, they got like $6 million. to spend like 6 to 12.
Yeah, I don't know that could be some cutting of some players that might free up a little bit more money. I don't know how
Yeah,
that all shakes out, but you would have to think that if TY comes back, TY is going to come back on the veteran minimum and just say, "Hey, I'm going to come back in any way I can help this football team. I'm willing to do that."
yeah,
We'll see, man. We'll see how that goes. Oh, Herbside says we need OBJ. I wouldn't be mad about it at all. You're probably going to get what 6, 7, 8 games out of him, but really you're getting him for what he can give you in the playoffs, right? Like he's the
yeah,
move. He's the chip. As far as that goes, Wyatt Law also a huge no horsing around family member. He agrees with loyalists. Eric Johnson might be a better 3 tech than Brooks. Would make an excellent big defensive end behind Quiddy. Plenty of other options at the 1 tech. Look at that, man. We got some really smart people in this chat, guys. Thank you so much for hopping in. We're gonna go for a few more minutes. If you have any, burning questions, we want to know, what are you most excited about? We're getting ready to go into the preseason. We're going to play preseason game 1, and it sounds like the last thing that we're going to talk about, Matt, sounds like Frank Reich's finally going to play the starters a little bit. I got to see it to believe it, but it sounds like he's going to actually give them a little bit of run.
Yeah, like I don't need to see, like Darius Leonard out there. I don't need to see Jonathan Taylor out there, but I want to see Matt Ryan and then our starting receivers, at least for a drive. That's what I want to see. See them, play a little bit. But really, I mean, I trust Matt Ryan enough to where if you play him for a series or 2 in the first game, I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't need to see him play anymore. I want to see some of the other guys. I want to see really that Sam Ehlinger versus Jack Cohn matchup.
Yeah.
That's what I really want to see. And that's more of what I want to focus on because Nick Foles, he's going to be the backup quarterback. I mean, they're not going to make him the number 3 unless there's like a big gap between him and whoever ends up getting the backup spot. But I don't really need to see Matt Ryan play a whole lot. Yeah, just a little bit. I want to see what he looks like in game with some of the starters, but I don't have to see him play a whole lot.
Yeah, I think even if it's just a series, I mean, even, like a guy like Jonathan Taylor, one handoff, maybe one pass blocking set, just to get used to that the way football is. Starting week 1 when you haven't played for a year is a really, really hard thing to ask those guys to just hit the ground running. And it seems like that we always take to about week 3 before we're actually ready to be in game shape. And as far as that goes, so I'm for it. There's going to be some criticism. Anybody gets injured, we're gonna hear about it. But here's what I would say to anybody: football, injuries are a part of football. That's just unfortunately, it's terrible. Nobody wants them, but injuries are a part of football. I would go out there and play my starters at least one series, give them a little bit of time, let those things go down, especially when you've got such a young wide receiver core. You want to get that timing to go out there and see how they're actually going to react, and you want to evaluate them. Right. Do I need to bring someone else in? Or maybe, hey, we got what we need right here. We don't need to bring anybody else in. As far as that goes, looks like Wyatt Law, football players got to play football. Be ready game 1. I couldn't agree more. Who is your 1 and 2 at the end of the year in receiving yards? Well, obviously Michael Pittman Jr. for me would be number 1. Oh, I'm so hesitant on saying Parris Campbell because I just don't want to jinx him. I don't want the poor guy getting injured. Healthy, I go Parris Campbell. If not healthy, I'm actually going to go. I'm going to go a little bit off the grid. I'm actually going to go Ashton Dulin.
I agree, obviously, on Michael Pittman. I think he's going to lead the team in receiving yards. Number 2, I think it's either Parris Campbell. I'll go. I'll go a little wild card here. Mo. Matt Ryan loves tight ends. I think he has potential to be number 2. Or Nyheim Hines, as Loyalist brought up. I think he potentially could be number 2. I mean, he led the team 2 years ago with Rivers.
That's a really good point. And he's going to go to him, man. I mean, he's going to obviously you saw that 35-yard fade route he threw to running backs. Guys, that doesn't happen very often with running backs. Like that's a special thing. Like running backs should not be able to catch those footballs. We've got a real X factor type player in Hines with his speed and his ability to catch the football, use it to your advantage. Guys, before we hop off here, I just want to take a second to thank every one of you guys for hopping in here on the live stream. It was certainly fun. Also want to thank Matt B for stopping by. Kind of short notice, but I just hit him up this weekend. I thought, man, this is going to be cool just to get talk about football, get the juices flowing again as we get ready to go into, obviously when it's getting ready to count. And then next Saturday, we're going to get to evaluate these players and get to see how they look against other people. And that's so cool, man. I'm ready to do it. And before you guys go here, just like Loyola said, smash that like button. And just as important, join the family and hit that subscribe button. It means so much to us. We're pushing for 1.5. Matt's pushing right. He's right there too. Guys, join the family. Until next time, thank you guys so much.